All right, now I know a lot of you guys collect the old Aurora monster kits, and well, this ain't quite that old, but it's still a monster in its own right. Come on and take a quick walk with me as we check out the 1973 release. That's 53 years ago. Monogram by Mattel.
Gigantic 1/72nd scale.
B-52 Stratofortress. Now, right here, before we even open this box, I'm going to get this little chunk of history out of the way. The B-52D, which is the version represented in this kit, first flew in 1956, and it was designed to deliver big nuclear kisses to Mother Russia with love. Okay, so the first thing that grabs me is the size of the box. And you've got B-52 Stratofortress taking up 1/5 of the box, and the artwork taking up the rest. And you've got that big red, white, and blue Monogram logo over there because in 1973, it was God Bless America. Then immediately down here, they're hitting you with stats. It's 26 inches long, 30 inch wingspan, and operating features, finished camouflage, strategic, or command versions. Now, flipping the box on its side, the rest of it's just more pictures of the plane. This is the most interesting side. Caught my eyes and noticed that it's a nice young strapping lad here that would rather be building models than out hanging out with Jezebels and whatnot. And yeah, but I figure he's about 14 or 15, maybe 16. Look how big that plane is in his hands. That's what they're showing you here on this one. Yeah, like I said, I can't really show you the rest of the box anyways because there ain't no room, but it's just other pictures of the plane. Now, one thing I want you to notice before I crack this open is listen to this. That's cardboard right there. That's a good old cardboard, not that crap we get today, that flimsy stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I'm sure, not 100%, but this thing was probably meant to ship in the box that it's in with just an outside cardboard box to protect it. Now, would you look at all that there? Now, what some collectors call this is a display in a box, and I can really see why, because one thing, before you even get to anything else, they're overwhelming you with size. Monogram put the biggest parts right on top. You got two giant fuselage halves, two giant wing halves. And while you're staring at all that, they got all these little text bubbles around telling you what you should be excited about. You got exact 1/72nd scale replica, and you got detailed cockpit bomb bay doors that open, wing flaps operate, gun turrets move, silver SAC version, green and black camouflage version. And what did I just tell you right there? Every one of those is the selling point. This ain't really packaging. This is an advertisement. Monogram wanted you to know what you was getting before you even touched the part. Now, here's the part that really blew my mind. Is like, this was one of Monogram's flagship kits in 1973, and it retailed for about $10. So I looked it up. $10 in 1973 money works out to about $76 today. So I put myself, in a small-time hobby shop retailer's shoes, and it ain't no chunk change either. You're buying this thing wholesale. Even so, I think this thing was designed to be its own display. No big fancy display stand, maybe one on display, one or two to sell off to the side. And you remember, it was the early 70s. It wasn't the 50s. Everything's getting slicker and slimmer and trimmer and easier to market. Marketing mattered. And the whole thing is this feels like it was designed to sell right out of the box. Now, if we jump back to being 12 or 13 years old again, we spent all summer mowing lawns, cutting grass, doing chores, and saving every dollar because you've been overpowered by this ginormous work of styrene art sitting in the hobby shop window. You got hooked. And honestly, 53 years later, it's still working. All right, let's pull some parts out. And what better to start with than these two giant fuselage halves we got right here. And remember, this is 53 years old. Pull them out. Let's see how we should go here. Maybe go together like that, Maybe a little up there. Yeah, so you can see, ain't nothing too terrible. A little bit of rubber bands and a little bit of putty there, you still get her done. It could be way worse. Now, did you happen to notice that one of these fuselage halves was like a drastic color difference, you know? And I was consulting with my buddy Max because this come from his stash, and, you know, after applying my own Batman level detective skills, I came to the conclusion that it's probably just from a different batch of styrene, because if you notice, there's no sun damage on the box. There wasn't no sun damage on the lid. And this whole thing was wrapped with like an old cellophane hanging off of it when me and Max pulled it out. He thinks he got it from a estate sale. So I don't think it was sitting in some sunny window somewhere for 50 years. Just a little interesting side note. All right, so let's get the gigantic parts out of the way. And if you notice, underneath them, there wasn't anything spectacular at all about the packaging. They didn't even put the sprues in plastic bags. I mean, everything was just kind of stacked in there. But right on top, we got the directions, so let's take a look. First off, if we look right up here in the corner, we can see that it has a Mattel logo, Mattel Models, copyright 1968, 1973, and that's another clue that we got the 73 issue, because the 68, it had an electronic sound engine gimmick in it, and, well, this one doesn't. Plus, they probably wouldn't put 73 there if it hadn't been 73 yet. Now, honestly, these are pretty standard instructions for a major modeling company, and they're, you know, pretty thorough. Over here, it's got, you know, what you will need and everything you should at least try to have to do the kit. It's got cellulose tape. Now, I didn't know what that was, and if you want to find out what it is, well, you can go ahead and Google and go down that little rabbit hole yourself. Or, you know, masking tape for holding large pieces together, old knife for flaring axles, and some other terms that sound like they came straight out of a Cold War hobby shop that I have absolutely no idea what they mean, and that's why I joined the IPMS group, is to broaden my horizons. And you've even got down here, they tell you to pick a version that you want to build, because, I mean, that's going to affect which directions and how the decals you follow later and put everything together. So it says, you know, you got two choices of paintings and markings. And, I mean, all in all, it's pretty solid directions. You know, Monogram wasn't no chump change company. And if you look here, it's got a nice big center spread in the middle of the entire aircraft. And it's got some paint schemes towards the back. You know, decal placement, assembly diagrams, pretty much everything you need. Now, here's my favorite part on the back, is where it says, world's largest scale. Check this out. Your Monogram B-52 Stratofortress kit is unquestionably the largest 1/72nd scale plastic model airplane manufactured in the world, basically. So what is the Monogram standing on top of the mountain saying, yeah, baby, we made the biggest one. So go ahead and flex, little man. You got the kit. You got it, baby. And then they even explain scale to newcomers, you know, to fully appreciate the enormous size of the Monogram B-52. They point out that in 1/72nd scale, 1 foot equals 1.666 inches. And so what they're telling you is, like, if the letters on this page was scaled to the size of an actual B-52, each one of these letters in the print would be 6 inches tall. So basically what they did is they reverse scaled it for you, just to give you an idea of the grasp of the size of this plane in real life. And I think that's pretty cool how they did that. And they also go on to mention that their team worked right with Boeing from Seattle and Boeing from Wichita in the development of this kit, that it took over a year, over 12 months. And they had all the actual drawings and the photographs and the technical information to help them make the finest 1/72nd scale model ever produced. And now today we could say at that time. Now, all this is, you know, marketing talking, but still, you could tell they were proud of this thing. Now, if you've been paying attention here, you will obviously have noticed some rather newy looking Ziploc baggies that doesn't come from 1973, and that's because I'd already been in here. And I did my buddy Max a solid and threw the couple of loose pieces that was just floating around the box into the baggies for him. And, you know, I took the decals inside here, along with this little mini catalog, so it wouldn't get damaged. But speaking of the decals, let's look at these things here real quick. you got, you know, your typical Air Force and all that. Yada, yada, yada. 172nd decals, you don't really get like super enveloped and overloaded with decals like you do on a much bigger plane. I know this is big plane, but you have to remember the scale size of the real plane. So it's, you know, it's not like a 132nd jet fighter that's actually this big when that plane is much smaller. You, especially newer kits, you'll get a lot more scale decals with it. But you know, personally, if I was going to build this today, I would probably try to hunt down a replacement decal set because, like I said, you know, these things have yellowed pretty hard. And but you know, it even tells you how to put them on the back there, and it's still cool just to have a piece of modeling history in your hands. Now, another favorite thing of mine of this is they give you a pilot guide. And I'm sorry, the zoom camera's on the fritz, so we're stuck with the bench wide here today, and that's as far as it'll zoom. But if you look at this wee little tiny pilot man, itty bitty teeny tiny, only as big as one joint on my finger. And you know, that also works to let you know the scale. You remember how big the fuselage was, as big as this box. You know, so that helps with the scale. And I don't know if there's another one here. Honestly, there's 200 some parts. I didn't inventory every part. I value what little bit of sanity I have left. Now, there's about 150 million bombs, and it seems like about 60 tires, but I mean, because that's all the wheels are molded in half. Actually, it's about 16, because I think it's got like 8 wheels. And it's got enough landing gear struts and stuff to keep you occupied for a good long while. Now, if we try to look at some of the detail here, at first I thought this was an engine, but now I am not so sure because this thing has 8 jets on it, and I don't see any more of these. But you can see some of the lines they have on it. So the detail ain't that great by what we consider to be standard today. But you have to remember when this was made. And this also has the classic, you can't feel it, but it's the raised panel lines. So all the panels of the plane are raised, which I hear all my buddies in the IPMS, they complain about because when it's raised instead of recessed, it won't hold your watch, your panel liners and all that. A lot of people sand that down and groove out their own. Oh, no, thank you. You know, so for the time, this was the shiznit, you know. And, you know, thank God today we've gotten spoiled with, you know, companies like Edward and stuff that make like hybrid kits and photo etch and 3D printed parts and insane tooling and new technology. It is improved by a million times. But, you know, when this thing hit the shelves, people probably looked at this the same way that we look at premium aircraft and even car kits or whatever, premium quality kits today. But, you know, honestly, for me, looking at all these parts sitting here, you know, I'm not the guy that's going to tell you every cockpit detail and, you know, every engineering the features the plane had. I'm just not that guy. You know, I'm not going to say, oh, well, it had a switch over here in the cockpit. That's not me, at least not when it comes to plane kits. Now, you know, this Pumpkinhead movie model, you know, I might be a little on Which brings us over here to the reference screen real quick because I wanted to show you the little catalog came with it because I thought it was cool as hell. You can see all the different scales. I know if you have to pause and break out your monocle, go ahead because, you know, this is as big as a hillbilly with internet access could make it. But, you know, just as different scales that Monogram was offering at the time, you know, and individual airplanes, helicopters, and all kinds of stuff they had listed. And the price is right there next to each one of them. Yeah, real tiny. Now, if you see most of their 1/32nd scale kits seem to be running around $2.25. And the 148 kits, they run anywhere from between about $1.25 up to $2.25 from what I'm seeing here. Now, the one thing that did catch my eye on the top one in the upper right-hand corner, you see they got these see-through models with operating features. And I actually have a buddy of mine in the IPS that built the Phantom Mustang one as a commission for somebody else. And you can see all the gears working inside with the propeller spinning and all the internal mechanisms. I think it was supposed to be battery powered. Don't quote me on that. Now, the funny thing here is you see we got the see-through Huey for $11. And that's actually $1 more than our B-52 Stratofortress. And the Mustang is listed at $750. Just a cool little piece of nostalgia. I mean, you know, some of that was big money back then. I remember it being kind of big. But, you know, it's the stuff like this and the reasons I enjoy looking through these old kits is the model itself is cool, sure, but, you know, but the catalogs, the instructions, the detail, all the little pieces, the decals, they're just like a snapshot of a different era, you know? Just sometimes gives you one of them warm fuzzies on the inside. Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and get you guys out of here. If you've been around this long, you deserve it. So thanks for hanging around and checking out this not so little piece of aviation modeling history with me from a not so historical standpoint. Yeah, Max does have some cool stuff in his stash. And if you're still around hearing my voice, then I got a feeling you might like this kind of thing. Won't you do me a favor and go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button? Hit the subscribe button, yeah. And, you know, it's just one of the best ways to help the channel out for free. And another way to help is if you see a hype button below this video, if you'd go ahead and spend some points on that. That's still beta from YouTube, from my understanding. But exactly what it does is what the name implies. It hypes the video, tells YouTube, hey, push this out to more people, and which ultimately helps the channel grow. And that is absolutely free still currently. I mean, I don't know if they're ever going to charge you for points, but now if you feel like helping the channel out with a little monetary support on a regular basis, I do have a $3 Patreon tier at Zoom. And what I offer in return is a monthly hangout where we get on there and we work on models and talk about movies or, you know, whatever, life, whatever comes up, pops on. Usually lasts around an hour, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less. Depends on how everybody's feeling. It's like a group conscious kind of thing. I don't get on there like a dictator and go, I'm out of here, you know. It's a good time enjoyed by all. Now, Zoom meetings aren't your deal. Like, I can dig it. Yeah, and I've also unlocked channel memberships at the Bog Dweller and Skunk Ape levels. Now, the Bog Dweller tier is only $3, and you get access to membership polls, custom emojis, loyalty badges, and the Skunk Ape is only $4. And you get everything that the Bog Dweller gets, but you also get a shout out on the following episode after you join. And you also get early access to upcoming videos. And honestly, all this stuff is used just to keep the lights on and hopefully improve the quality of video over time. You know, better cameras, better lighting, better equipment. And I know you've noticed. Don't act like you haven't. And once again, I would just genuinely love to thank each and every one of you, because the recent videos have absolutely blown away my expectations of what they were going to do. And that's because of you guys. You know, you're the one, your actions tell YouTube to spread the news. You know, you're the ones watching, commenting, sharing, and you're helping the channel grow. And for that, I am ever grateful. You know, so I think up next, we're going to work our way back around to the Crypt Keeper build, spend a little time on him. And once again, I'd like to thank you for putting up with my occasional detours into non-horror kits. You know, I know sometimes some people, you know, really enjoy them, but honestly, it helps things stay fresh for me, and so I don't get bored. And that's really important to keep something like this ongoing. I appreciate it. So till next time, be good to each other. Model on. Sit, Rocco, sit. Good dog. Roof.